Hey guys, ETJ Writes here. Welcome to part 2 of my writing vlog, my December writing vlog series. There may be a part 3, I'm not 100% sure, but hopefully I will be a little bit less rambly and more succinct with my commentary about what I'm writing. I've had a lot of fun doing these, and it's actually helped me to be more motivated and to write more consistently. So here we go. Last time I left off, I was at the beginning of chapter 5. And actually, in the interim between the last update and this update, which is, by the way, today is December 13th that I am working on this. But in the interim, I actually decided to go ahead and add a second interlude, which I'm going to work on now. It's going to be interesting as I do these interludes to see what happens when I come back in editing. I might throw some out, I might add some more in where I need them to go. So the interlude is my main focus for today, and then working on chapter 5 a little bit and seeing where we go from there. Okay, so I have gone ahead and written the second interlude. Based on how I decided to structure it, I've actually been able to go back and edit the first interlude to make them fit together a little bit better. And I like it a lot more too. The first interlude, it was just kind of there because I needed it to be, but I wasn't really vibing with it. But now I like it a lot better. And if you read the 2 interludes back to back, you'd understand, oh, some time has passed. We've moved from one phase of the plan to the next phase of the plan. And it very clearly sets up that something is going on behind the scenes without explicitly getting into details. Okay. That concludes my writing session for today. I got about 1,000 words in. I was able to complete the interlude, which I was pretty happy with, and also get about 1.5 pages into chapter 5. I'm really excited with how this is going. At the end of chapter 3, I had wanted some characters to meet that they just weren't ready for them to meet, so I had to throw in chapter 4. And chapter 4 is a chapter I can already feel that I'm going to need to go back and work on during revisions to make it more meaty, but also to make things have more impact, more internal thoughts and feelings. So that's something I think I will really need to explore in the second, third, fourth, however many revisions I need to do. What I'm excited about for chapter 5 is that this feels right now. These characters have all met, and well, they're just about to meet, but they're all in the same place at the same time. And as I go ahead and continue writing that, things can now fall into place the way they are supposed to. And hopefully I can get back to writing the romance bit, because there's been a lot of action and the romance kind of has taken a back seat. Fairly soon though, we'll be getting back to Candy's life on Earth instead of on Avalon, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that all pans out, because she's really excited to be where she is right now. Well, she's not currently excited at this moment, but she's going to be. So, see you next time. Hey guys, welcome back to another writing vlog. Today is December 16th, and I'm going to be working on chapter 5. Now, I probably won't work too long on it because we had some snow today, and I spent quite some time shoveling said snow, and I haven't had much energy to do other things. But since I've been having fun doing this vlog, it's a good motivation for me to just write a little bit, even if it's not a lot. A little bit's still better than zero, so here we go. Alright, so I've just completed my brief reread of where I got to last time, and actually I need to go back and fill in some parts in the middle. It's something that right now I just need to write to tell myself the story, because I just need to put in some exposition, and if I don't add it in, I'm going to be stuck figuring out where I need to go next. So that's what I'm doing. And if it feels like I'm being a little less exuberant and quiet than normal, it's really late. I didn't have energy to do writing until quite some time after shoveling, so I'm trying to be quiet. But yeah, I've got to go back and work on this new section, well, work on the part that I've just written and flesh it out a little bit before I proceed any further. Candy gasped at the woman acknowledging their relationship so dispassionately. That's the word I want. Dispassionately. There we go. All right, so that concludes my writing session for today. I wrote for a little bit over an hour. I got about 900 words in, which I'm pretty excited about. This part of the story is where my character is finally meeting some of the other important characters, and I got a little bit emotional writing it. I think when I go back in revisions, I'll have to go back to the earlier chapters to add in just a bit more of a punch so that when we get to the scene, the audience will feel the emotion, because I know all the backstory, so I'm getting really excited about it, but I need to put a little bit more in, a few more lines here and there, so that when a reader is getting to this point in the story, they're going to feel the same thing reading it that I am writing it. So I've kind of left off in the middle of things because I could go more, but I don't want to force it, so I'll just read you my last line. This is from Brahm because he and Candy got separated while trying to get to the palace, and he's really excited and relieved at being able to see her again. So here we go. I'm so sorry, Princess. I tried, but the guards, and you were in the dungeons, and I tried to explain to Cortus, but everyone thought you were a spy, but you were glowing in your sleep, and then next we knew, you were gone. So hopefully, once I get around to, at some point, making an audiobook, I can narrate that part with a little bit more fluid emotions, but this is some of my first times reading this out loud. It was in my head, and then I wrote it down really quickly, and the more I go back and revise things, the more I'll read it out loud and get a good sense of his voice. I always have to rewrite his dialogue anyway because I want to make it sound a little bit more old-fashioned, but this is just kind of what I've word vomited into my word processor here. I use OpenOffice. It's pretty much like Microsoft Word, but it's completely free. We will stop there for today. Excited about my progress. Hey guys, ETJ Writes here. Today we're going to be embarking upon another section of the writing vlog. It's December 20th, and it's time to dive into Chapter 5. Last time we left off, there were some reinitions happening, and I'm really looking forward to continuing those, seeing where the story will take us next. So without further ado, I'm going to get back into a reread and go from there. So I had to just take a quick minute before I even got into my reread to go off on a research dive, because I have a part where I wanted my character to pull the other character onto a horse while the one character is standing on the ground and the other person is mounted. I know I have a vague memory of seeing it in movies and actually just read a book where that happened, but I wanted to double check and make sure that that was a possibility before I had my character do that. So I went on YouTube and on Google, and I discovered it's called the buddy pickup or the rescue race, where the mounted rider will be sitting on the horse and they'll extend their left hand down, because you always mount from the left side, and the other person is facing the horse. They grab the person's left hand with their left hand and they kind of jump and then swing up and around and over. The mounted rider is someone who I've given enough strength that she can pull her on and make the maneuver work even with a less experienced person, and I'll put that a little bit into more of a fantasy category under the things that could happen, not as plausible, but technically not impossible. All right, I have completed my reread and I'm ready to actually start writing. It took me a little longer than I thought it would because I actually got into doing some editing with the section, but there were just parts where I had repeated myself. The ideas weren't very clear, and I knew I could work on it, make it a little bit better. That way I'm saving future me a little bit of work come revision time, because where I wanted to go with the section is still rather fresh in my mind. And since I'm planning to let this story rest for some time after I complete the first draft, I figured it was better to go ahead and get a little bit of that necessary revision done now and not confuse myself later down the road. That concludes my writing session for today. I got around 500 words in, well, 500 words of new material. I probably got a little bit more than that in when I went back and did some editing. And the reason is because I cut out some material and then I added some material, and so I'm not quite sure what the final word count with those additions ends up being. But as I said, I got around 500 words. The whole chapter is clocking in around 2,000 words, and I think I'll probably get to around 4,000 to 5,000 words. That seems to be the average that I'm getting to currently. I did start off with the intention of having slightly shorter chapters, but I think 5,000 is a reasonable number for word count for a chapter. I was able to establish some family dynamics in this chapter, and I really like the last line where I've stopped so far. This is starting with the Queen speaking, so here we go. She gave her brother a cutting look. Don't undermine my promises to my daughter. Court historian Damier bowed, a little bobbing motion of his head. As you wish, he said, but the wrinkles on his forehead remained as they traversed the candlelit halls. There are definitely times in the past where I've ended chapters where people went to sleep and then they woke up and things happened, and it's very common to do that because it's like, oh, a little transition. Every day of our lives we fall asleep, we wake up, and it's another transition. But the issue with doing that is in a story that kind of gets boring when everyone is constantly falling asleep and waking up. And in a story where I'm dealing with dreams, I have to be a little bit more creative than that. Now, I think I can get away with it on this transition, but we'll have to see because I've already done it in the early chapters, and I need to make sure that I'm not always falling asleep, waking up, falling asleep, waking up, because that gets boring. And it has been established already that Candy doesn't actually need to fall asleep for all these events to take place. I don't want to say too much more for spoilers, but I'm really excited with how this is going so far, and we'll see what I'm able to get done the rest of this month. Hey guys, ETG Writes here. It's a very special day today because it is Christmas Eve, and I'm really looking forward to Christmas tomorrow. I'm going to be doing some baking and a bunch of other things today, but right now my focus is on writing, so I'm going to read over what I've read before, remind myself of what happened last time, and then jump right into it. So here's a good example of something I just had to revise going back in my reread. I had a sentence that read, Candy nodded shyly, curious at such an offer when wondering why the Queen had made no such overtures. But I don't need to say wondering why, because the fact that I say curious implies the wondering why. It's interesting, a lot of times we tend to repeat ourselves, both in speech, but then it translates into writing. And by going over and checking what I have, then I can say, oh yeah, that's unnecessary. So just get rid of wondering why, and it says, Candy nodded shyly, curious at such an offer when the Queen had made no such overtures. The sentence reads much more cleanly and smoothly now, and when I go to revise in later read-throughs, that's something I'm not going to stumble over. Here I go again, creating characters out of thin air. I needed a guard for my one character, and so I've created another character. Her name is Anna, and she is one of the palace guards. She's been assigned to Candy because she's a little bit older than Candy. She's in her early 20s, and the Queen thought it would be best if the young lady was watching over her daughter. I don't know if Anna's going to continue being the character that shows up, but every now and then you just need some background people, and it'll be interesting to see, does Anna stick around, or do we just mention her in this one scene and then she kind of becomes part of the scenery? Who knows? Alrighty, I got just under 700 words in. This section of the story feels a little bit whiffly to me. There's a lot of stuff that I'm just kind of coming up with on the fly and inventing scenes that have to happen, and I can already feel that in revision I'm going to need to move things around, take some things out, add some things back in. But I just need to get the words on the page, just kind of figure out the general events, because a lot of times you write something and when you take it out later, it doesn't mean that that thing didn't happen, but you find a different way to refer to it. You might refer to it in a single line and say, they talked about this and that, or you might say, remember this conversation we had, or it's something that you don't even include, but you as the author know happened, and it doesn't need to be in the story. It's like a deleted scene. It adds a little bit of flavor, and you can go back and think about it, but ultimately it's not necessary and would actually detract from the main story that you are trying to tell. Here's a few of the last lines from this section. Candy and her friend Brahm are talking and about peace treaties that have been proposed, and Brahm says, "That would be good," Brahm said wistfully. "I have cousins in High Fantry I've never met because of the war. It'd be nice if we could be friends." Well, we'll end on that note, and maybe I'll get some more writing in before Christmas. I highly, highly doubt it, because Christmas is tomorrow. Probably will get some in between now and the new year, and I'm really looking forward to putting this vlog up. See you next time. Hey guys! Today it is Christmas. I have some time, so I'm going to be doing a little bit of writing. Where I left off last time, our two characters, who are the main character and her romantic interest, are strolling along, talking to each other. I want to get some more character moments between these two before we get into some more action. The main plot we're going to be talking about, but we're not going to be stepping into it probably until chapter 6. I've got some setup that I have to do in this chapter 5. Without further ado, I'm going to do my reread and then dive right into writing. My soundtrack for today is Star Wars, because I've been watching a lot of Star Wars reaction videos to the Mandalorian Season 2 finale, and just learning a lot about storytelling and how to fulfill expectations instead of subverting them. Okay, so this section needs fleshing out. Brackets, add more detail here. Perfect. Dilemma. How do you say Disney without saying Disney? I probably technically could get away with just saying the word, but it's better to be safe than sorry. I came up with princess-themed amusement parks. Just vague enough that it doesn't technically refer to Disney, so I'm okay to use it, but just specific enough that people know what I mean. Aha! I just reached a point in my story where a consequence from chapter 4 needs to be brought into chapter 5. I wasn't sure how to do it before. I knew I needed to fit a scene in about someone carrying a message from one kingdom to the other kingdom. I wasn't sure where to put that in before, but now that I'm up to the second part of my chapter here, I realized, oh, the scene that I wrote earlier where not much happens, that would be the perfect spot to put that in, and it's going to create some tension into an otherwise lovely little family moment. Also, it's going to create some tension in the romance side of things, which I'm really excited for. That wraps up today's writing session. I made it to about 700 words, and the whole chapter is clocking in around 3,400. I'll probably go to 4,000, maybe 4,500, because where I've got to in the chapter, we have now introduced a very important character who has been talked about, who's been lurking in the background, but we have not gotten to experience them in the flesh. Because of that, I feel we need a little bit more time, a little bit more content to pad out the rest of this chapter to make everything fall into place. And speaking falling into place, I wrote a line that I actually really, really enjoy. It goes like this. In fact, Candy felt sick, hot and cold, and dizzyingly nauseous. That must have been what was in that letter they had received at breakfast. Everything started to click horribly into place. That's a really fun line I enjoyed writing. Sometimes when I'm writing something, I know straight away that I'm going to throw it out in revisions. I just need it as a placeholder. Sometimes I have stuff that as I'm revising, I discover I don't need it. But then sometimes you get lines where you know that that line is going to make it from one cut to the next cut to the next cut. And it's not necessarily a darling that, oh, you love it so much and you can't bear to kill it, but you know that it just clicks so well that no matter what else you write around it, you can use that line regardless because it fits a very pivotal moment. I have a couple lines like that where I'm just really enjoying them, and it'll be really fun to track as I go from one draft to the next, which lines stay and which lines go, and I have a really good feeling about this one. But that's where I will stop for today. I think this will be the end of part 2. I might do a very, very small part 3, depending on what I get done between now and New Year's. But until next time, happy writing. ETJ out.